Hey guys, and welcome back to another video on this series. So in the last episode, we took a look at doing some of the traversal setup, or at least the first step in the traversal setup, where we started, putting together like kind of the actor location, capsule radiuses, and stuff like that. Getting all those prepped for what we'll be calling in the next step, or at least prepping that for the next, few steps within the next few episodes, so to speak. So what we're going to do now is we need to first migrate the level blocks for this video, because we'll be casting to the traversal level block. So kind of in my project, what you'll see here, what we'll be working on is the step 2, where we go over like starting our capsule tracing and whatnot. And then this is where you'll see that we need to actually cast to this, because basically we're copying the game animation sample, so that's to learn more about what's going on, right? So we definitely need to do that in order for us to continue forward and do other stuff within this step 2 video. So go ahead and open up your game animation sample project if you haven't already. And what we're going to do is, I believe it's in level prototyping. Yeah, so go into level prototyping when you can. And this traversal block right here is what we need to migrate into our game animation sample project from scratch tutorial. So go ahead and right click it, and you're going to go to Asset Actions, Migrate. And once you click that, essentially we want everything, because we do want this data for traversal action types, the check results. We want to also make sure that we have the other params, level styles, because that's what actually allows us to traverse and stuff like that. So we also want the visuals, the materials, and everything else that comes with it. We don't necessarily need the teleporter, but I'm just bringing it in anyway in case you want to use it for stuff. So go ahead and hit OK. And then let's go ahead and find our project. So it should be our GASP tutorial that we're in. So, or whatever you've called the GASP from scratch project. So, and then you're going to click on your content folder within that, select the folder, and we're going to migrate it. So did I already do it? I guess I probably did, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and override it if I did. I don't recall doing that, but I'm going to go ahead and override it, and I will see y'all when it's done. Alright guys, welcome back. So now you should see that when we go back into our main project, which is where I'm at currently, you will now see level prototyping. So when I click into there, you should see our level block and the other stuff that we've migrated in. So once you do see those things, then we are good to go for the moment, so we can go ahead and begin our step 2 of this tutorial. So basically what we're trying to do is, in the step 2, we are trying to perform a trace in the actor's forward direction to find a traversable level block. And if we find one, then we set the hit component to register that we found it and to do, traversal actions in the future, whatnot. But then if not, then we do a return node to basically say, hey, we failed to get this, so don't do a montage, or hey, we failed it, so jump instead, right? So what we need to go ahead and do is we need to right click in our blueprint, and we need to look for a capsule trace by channel. And we want to do the first one. We don't want to do the multi one. We want to just do the normal capsule trace by channel. So once you have that, go ahead and put that in. And I know this looks intimidating, so for those that are unfamiliar with traces by channels, I will try my best to explain it, especially since I'm a noob with Unreal Engine myself. But as far as I understand with traces, so basically this is our start, so where we want to start the trace. So basically, normally you would get the actor's location and put that as your start point, which is what we're actually going to do since we have our local variables, right? And then the end is how far you want to go out from like your character. However, the thing with this is we want to do some offsetting, because what will end up happening, and I've seen this, and I'll show you what goes on with it. So let me actually show you real quick, kind of like how the trace works, right? So let me do, yeah, I'll go back into our third person character blueprint. Let me go into event graph, and I'm just going to right click and do a left mouse button click just to show y'all kind of what the trace does, right? So capsule trace by channel. And when I press it, we're just gonna do some line tracing. But basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do get actor location. And then what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of like leave. Well, let me do a radius. So I'm gonna do I'm gonna do 30 as my radius. And then 90 as our half height. So basically, you know, similar stuff to how we have set in here, right? So, you know, whatever our capsule radius is and whatever our half height is, just so you could see. So when I do that, we want it visible, I want it for duration, and I want to keep it up for 5 seconds or 5 units of time, just that way you could see this, right? So we're gonna make sure it ends at 000, which basically is like the world origin, and you're gonna see here in just a second. So when I click it, you can see that we're trying to do a capsule trace, and you can see that's pointing to the 000. So you can see right there how it's doing that. So even if I look away or try, you know, doing something else or looking away, it's always going back to that origin, right? So basically what we're trying to accomplish with the end is we need to do an offset of that action, right? So let me do this. So I believe that when we do the forward distance, let's get our forward vector so that way you can see. So get forward, actor forward vector, and what I'm going to do is then multiply it. And then I'm going to put this as a float, because when we have our forward trace, we are calling this because it either goes to 75 or 350 with how we set it in like the previous video, right? So I'm gonna then set it there, compile and save. And as you can see, it's kind of going in different fashions. It's not doing our forward vector, but at least it's not going to the center, right? So that's kind of what's happening there. So it's a bit offset. So what we would typically do is, let me get the actor location again. And then what we want to do here is we want to offset it. So what I did here was just kind of give it like a different ending point, like away from the origin. But what we want to do is, if we want it straight in front of us, we have to kind of multiply it so it turns it around basically, and not multiply, but it does the distance like here, if I understand it correctly. But when we do an addition like this, so if we get our add, plug it into there, and then put it into our end, and then compile and save, now as you can see, it's going forward. So basically what we did here was get the distance kind of, but then we use this to more or less like rotate it forward or go forward with it, because we're getting our actor's location for the end, and then we're just adding our offset. So like if I did, you know, let's say 150 right here for our multiply. Oh, it still goes forward. Okay. But then if I did this, let's just say I get rid of this and I don't have, or like, let me disconnect it instead, so that way I have this just for reference. Then compile and save. And so as you can see, it's just kind of like going here, but then if I do, you know, like 100 at the X, right? It's going to go forward, or it's at least going to go along the X. It's not going to go forward, but it's going to go along the X. But then say if I put a Y here, or put it in the Y at 100, well then along the Y, it's gonna go to the, like, to our right. So then if we did negative numbers, it would go like backward or left, you know, in X or Y respectively, right? So that's essentially what we're doing, is we're trying to move the capsules forward by doing that. So that's just a brief example of what we're doing. So I'm not the best at explaining it, but just visually seeing it, you can kind of see why we used this as our offset, because we're just we're adding it to this, so that way we at least go in front of our actor, because we want the tracing to be in front of our actor. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this, and then go back into here, and just like how I demonstrated out there, what we're going to grab in here is we're going to grab our actor location, we're going to grab our actor location again, just like how I was showing you. And then here is now where we get the traversal forward distance that we've set up into here. So if you remember in our event graph, if I go over how we've made this function in our previous video, and basically if we are not moving, as you can see in here, from a 0 input, then we will return our vector or our forward distance at 75 units ahead of us. If we are moving, it's going to range it to 350 units ahead of us. So that's where I was getting the 350 earlier when I was demonstrating the offset, or the distance in front of our character with doing the tracing. So the next thing we're going to grab is our actor forward vector. So just like how I showed out there, because, you know, we have the units set up in here as our variables. That way we can call them wherever as many times as we need. So we don't have to always set those up. But now to grab this, you're not going to sit there and drag from this, because since we made it a variable input, or an input variable right there, just like how we did in a video like earlier with interpolate, like way back some videos ago, you can easily just call the, let's see, the trace forward distance like that. Or no, you shouldn't have to do that. Should be able to just, unless I messed up somewhere. Bear with me, guys. I'll be right back. Okay, guys, my bad. I'm back. I was it was just me being dumb. I was misspelling it. I thought I had did something. I've done something else, but no. I was doing trace forward distance rather than traversal forward distance, like what we were setting. So that's pretty much it. So that's what you want to do. Is, so I was right. It's just that I was misspelling. So just like in our previous video or way long ago with interpolate, you're going to do the same thing, where we're going to do get traversal distance, which is what basically it's doing right here, is we're getting whatever is being passed into this input. So what we're going to do now is we're going to connect our pieces, right? So we want to start where our actor is located in the world here. Then what we want to do is, just like previously, we're going to get our forward distance and we're going to multiply it, right? And we're going to tie it into our traversal forward distance into here. And then we're going to start from our actor location and add what our offset is. That way it goes directly in front of us. So then we will tie that into the end. And just like in case you need to see what this is doing again, you can definitely go back earlier in the video to just get the demonstration of what we're doing. I did it more or less by getting these variables, but that's why we have them set as variables up here, is so we could just make it look nicer like this. And also too, we'll be using these variables a lot, but essentially I did the same thing by just using this and using this, and I just had a multiply by 350 just to kind of show you what was going on. So that's essentially what we're doing here. So once we have that, then we need to get our debug levelings and whatnot here. So we want to, for our capsule trace by channel, we're going to leave the radius and the half height alone in here, because we're basically what we're doing is kind of like starting our tracing through here. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a select node, and in here we're then going to grab our draw debug level, and we're going to pass it into a greater than or equal to, and then whatever, right? So, and we're going to pass that into our index, and we're going to make this number a 2. So essentially what we're doing is we're going to be passing this into the debug type. So we want it to be greater than 2, or greater than or equal to 2, because in case we're doing some debugging in the future and we want to see the capsules, we want to be able to call for duration or for persistence, right? So what we're essentially doing here is, let me see, we want to go here. And so if we are greater than or equal to 2, we want to do none for false, and then for duration for true. So anytime this is greater than or equal to 2, just like in here, we want to do the for duration or for persistence, but we want to just keep that duration because we don't want persisting capsules in there, because then it just generates a lot of mess or a lot of noise. So once we have that, let's move that out of the way. And then we're gonna grab our debug duration and then just put it into the draw time just like that. So that's essentially how you're gonna do it here, folks. And that is our first step into capsule tracing. So let me go ahead and copy over my comments so that way y'all can copy them if y'all want to, just so that way you know what each thing is doing. So bear with me, guys. I know it's gonna take a bit, but I want to do this for y'all's sake, just because I put a lot of these comments together, just because they, to me, were valuable references, especially if I forget like what these things do in particular. I want to be able to refer back to them and understand like, oh yeah, this is what's going on here, you know. Especially too with doing the YouTube video, I want to make sure that, you know, you totally get the appropriate direction set, rather than me trying to, like, you know, talk out my butt and whatnot. I just want to be able to give y'all, like I said, references so you know exactly what's going on. So let me move that over a little bit. And I apologize, guys. I know this is gonna be one of the things that makes my videos run long, but it's worth the sacrifice. Worth the sacrifice. Okay. All right, so just like that. So going over it again, essentially, this is going to be the start point of our capsule trace. And then right here, to get the endpoint, we get the actor's location again, and then we add the distance to it, or at least our offset, to get our endpoint. And this is the distance that we want to travel, so that going forward. And then here, if the debug level is greater than or equal to 2, we will set the debug type to show the capsule trace for a certain duration. So that's essentially what's going on there. And so let me prettify that real quick. Move that over. All right, so there we go. And let me move this down ever so slightly, just because eventually we will be adding in the big boy comment bubble. So now what we're going to do here is, so now that we have our tracing set up, or how far we want the capsule to go in our tracing and whatnot, we're now going to do a branch result. So we also need to also break, or at least split, the out hit struct. So basically what this is doing is the out hit. So when the tracing goes outward, at least from my understanding, anything that it hits, overlaps, gets blocked by, or goes through, we will do certain actions that we specify. So the one that we want is this for the out blocking hit. So what we're trying to do is check to see if our capsule trace hits or is blocked by something. So if we are blocked by something, then, oops, sorry guys, I didn't mean to burp like that. So if we do get hit by something, or we hit something or get blocked by something, then on false, so what we're doing is, like, on false, we want to do a return node that we're like, our check has failed, or our traversal check failed, and we're going to do a jump. But then if we, on true, we're going to cast to the level block, because what we're doing is we're checking to making sure that we hit a block, or at least the traversal block. So that's why we're casting to the block specifically. So go ahead and do a cast to traversal block. It should be in here. Oh, my bad. It's level block traversable. Okay, so why is it not appearing? My guys, let me do one more check. I don't know why this keeps happening. Okay, guys, my bad. So don't drag off of the branch and try to do the cast. You want to go out into the blank, get the traversal level block, and then forward it to true. So that's what we want to do. So my bad, I was misleading y'all. So like I said, so when we do the capsule trace forward of us, if it hits a block, it's going to do a check. And if we do hit something, we're going to pass it to true and check if it's a level block traversable, and then continue doing stuff. If it's not, then we're going to just return a false traversal that we failed the check, and then do a jump or something else instead. So what we're going to do is we're going to then right click and make a return node. And then on the return node, what we need is to add 2 booleans. One is a traversal, if I can spell, traversal check failed. And then the second one is going to be montage selection failed. So that's how we're gonna have it there. So go ahead and from the false, you want to plug into here, and then on the cast failed, plug into the return node. So if we fail to cast a traversal to a level block traversable, especially on a blocking hit, then if we fail it, we want to just return that we failed. And so we're going to have a traversal check failed checked to true. We're going to leave montage as false. I don't know why they did that, but I don't know what the relevance of it is to here, especially since I don't have the animation montages to really play for it. But all I can tell you is that essentially what we'll be doing is playing vaults, hurdles, climbs and whatnot. So if you fail a check anyway, you're not going to even be playing those montages anyway. So I don't know how relevant it is, but I'm pretty sure it's used in a bunch of other different places, so I'm not quite sure. So go ahead and do that. And then what we're going to do now is we are going to then grab our S traversal check result. So what we're going to do is create a variable called S. Oops, sorry. We're going to do traversal check result. And because when we did the migration earlier, I told y'all to keep the structure files checked off on that. That way, because the traversal check result should come with that. So if we do traversal check result, yep, we have that in our system. And then you can see what we have when we click on it. So this is all the data that's in the files. So if you remember kind of our structures and other stuff that we've talked about in previous videos, is it's all relative or related data or values. So here's also where the montages come in as far as this is concerned. But with what we're going to be doing is we don't really go into this as much, but as far as the values are concerned, we'll be setting up, values for checking if we have front ledges, where the locations are, heights, like other stuff. So not to overwhelm y'all right now, as we'll be going at it one at a time, but you will see. So go ahead and just kind of close that for the moment. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a set members in S traversal check result. So what a set members does with doing struct files is it's a better way of being able to check off categories and place the new data in there, right? So I'll give you an example. So for this one, what we want to do is do a hit component. So you're going to check that in the details tab of the traversal check, right? So as you can see, the hit component appears and is ready for us. So then what we're going to do is within our trace by channel, we are going to do where is it at? It is the on hit component. So when we hit something, we're going to return that hit component value into here and then set it or make it as a member, or make the value or set the value within our check result. So that's what we'll be doing. Another thing we do have to do is get the actor and set it into the object, because what we're doing is we're making sure that our hit actor is the cast level block traversable, right? So that's what we're doing there. So it's a very rough explanation of what I've done. Oh yeah, and we also want to connect that to just have that completed. So like I said, it's a very rough explanation of what I've done, and I apologize if it goes over anybody's head, but it still somewhat goes over my head too. But I at least understand where what we're doing is we're getting a capsule trace. We're going forward with it depending on what we return from our traversal forward distance. And if we hit something and if it's the traversal level block, then we're going to set our hit component within our traversal check to be like, yes, we hit something. If we don't, then we're going to fail the traversal check. No montage gets played, etc. So that's pretty much the rough bit of it. So like I said, guys, I apologize if the explanation goes over your head, because like I said, it still goes over mine. So I'm going to go ahead and prettify this real quick, because there's going to be a couple other things that we do too, because we're going to be working on the next part now. So, oh yeah, and one other thing, guys, I forgot to recommend y'all is grab and get a traversal check failed, and we need to connect that to our structure reference, because we need to, this is basically referencing our struct files, that way it knows what values to set or make within the check result. So if you just had this box, it's not going to do anything, because it's going to fail and error out because we didn't reference our struct that we had migrated over. So definitely make sure you get that from your local variables and place it in here and connect it to structure reference. So once we do that, we're ready to move on to the next part, which is basically what we'll be doing is, if a traversal level block is found, we're going to get the front and back ledge transformations from it using its own internal function, right? So basically, I'm going to just showing you this. So this is what's within the level block, and I pulled this from my other project. So within the level block, because as you can see, we're in the level block traversable, as I clicked on the function that I have in my other project, is it has a get ledge transform in there, it has a sequence, and it does a lot of value referencing, making, and whatnot in order to tell you whether it has a, basically, you know, at the end of it, a front ledge and its location and its height, compared to like if it has a back ledge, the back ledge's location and its height. So that's essentially the rough explanation of what's going on here. So what we're going to do is, since we migrated the level block assets, we should have that function. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click into here and do get ledge transform. Okay, why is it still not in here? Oh yeah, I think I know why. So if I do here, get ledge. All right, guys, bear with me just again. Sorry, I'm terribly sorry that keeps happening, but I don't know why this stuff keeps breaking. All right, guys, I fixed that. So basically what was going on is within our, we had to go off of the cast level block traversable into the get ledge transformations to get that. So once we have that, what we can do is unclip that, and then we can go back to then setting our members and then dragging it into the get ledge transform. So we have that. So now, once we have that, what we're going to do is off the impact point here, we're going to drag our hit location here and set it just like that. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to grab our actor location and we're going to set it in here to get our actor's location. So basically what it's going to do is on the hit point, or the, like, you know, the hit reference or the component that we find, it's going to get that hit location and relevance to our actor location, if I understand that correctly. So now that we have that, what we do need to do is we need to connect our check result here, so that way we basically kind of get the traversal trace references within this function. So pretty much do that. So once you have that, go ahead and prettify this. Gonna set it out right here. I'm gonna set this down a little bit so that way we can cut through. Set it out as such. Actually, I'm going to bring that down ever so slightly. Just like that. And I got to move this out of the way anyway, so this works. All right, and there we go. And then let me drag that down. And there we go. So we got that. So basically we fixed up what we needed to do. So now the last thing we have to do, and it's going to be pretty simple, at least I can explain this part pretty well with what's going on, is we're going to be drawing debugs shapes at edge locations. So this is pretty much not going to be on by default, and I'll show you like once we complete the series of like how you would turn it on and check for these shapes. But what we're going to do now is we're going to grab our debug level and we're going to do a greater than or equal to We're going to set it to 1. So at any point in time, if our debug level is 1 or equal to 1 or greater, then we will do a branch and connect that into the condition, and then we're going to do another check, right? So if we don't have a debug of equal to 1 or greater, then we just do nothing. But if it's true, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't even know you could do that. So we're going to do branch, and then we're going to get a couple things as we connect into it. So first, we're going to click off into here and do a draw debug sphere. And we're going to connect that to true. So basically, if our conditions are met, then we're going to draw a debug sphere. And what we're going to do that is we're going to get our traversal check result, and we're going to drag off, and we're going to do a break. And what we're going to do here is we're going to click into our break result, and we're going to drop down our default categories, and we're going to hide connection pins. So that way we only select what we want. And what we want is we want to see if we have a front ledge, and we also want to do the location. So we're going to plug the front ledge into our condition to check whether that's true or not. And then we're going to put our front ledge location in the center, so of kind of where the front ledge is, or so. So what's going to end up happening, and let me pull it over, or let me pull it up for y'all so that way you can see what's going to happen. So in our level block, if I go into viewport, you can see that we have these ledges, right? So what our debug is going to do is wherever this is located in respect to what we have set for our traversal check result. So if we do have a front ledge and we get the location of it, it's pretty much going to center the draw debug like right here. So that's pretty much what it's going to do. So go ahead and hop back into here, go back into there, and then we're going to get the debug duration, and we're going to plug it into here. So that's essentially what we're doing. That's essentially all we're going to be doing there. Well, not all we're going to be doing. We still have one more left because we have to do one for the back location. So go ahead and connect your true into that branch, and then clean up the results and stuff. All right, there we go. And now what we're going to be doing is you're going to grab this again, and you're going to paste it over here. But essentially the changes that we're going to make is in the check result. So within your traversal check result, let's go ahead and hide the connected pins, or let's uncheck them since it's not letting us do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to check if we have a back ledge and where the location of the back ledge is. And you're going to plug the bool into the branch, and then you're going to connect the location in there. So essentially what this is doing is if we have a debug level of 1 or greater, so it actually draws the debug. If we go back into our level block traversal, it is going to check, let me see. Let me grab the second one. It is going to grab first if we have a front ledge. If we do, it's going to get the location of it and draw a sphere here. Then it's going to go across the top of it due to our capsule sweep that we did. So basically in here is what it's going to do. It's sweep up against the top, or I'm sorry, the sweep's probably going to be in the next one, but it's then going to get the back ledge location, or it's going to check to see if we do have it, get the location, and then draw the sphere here. So you'll see a sphere here, and then other stuff should happen, right? But that's for debugging purposes, and it's only for debugging purposes just to make sure stuff works. But I would rather have this set so that way later you can see what's supposed to happen. So once we have that, then we can go ahead and connect our get ledge transforms into our branch, and we can go ahead and clean this up because we are essentially done with this video, guys. So what I'm going to do is let me go ahead and put in the comments for y'all, so that way you know what's going on. I did keep essentially the regular comments from the game animation sample project, so as you'll see. So if once I do that and clean it up, move this over. Yeah, so here you go, guys. So right here for this comment, so if I zoom in, basically what they're saying is performing a trace in the actor's forward direction to find a traversable level block. And if found, we set the hit component, but if not, then we exit the function. So essentially just like that. Oop, didn't mean to move it like that. And then let me grab the other comments for you guys. There we go. So in this comment, guys, basically, if a traversable level block was found, we're going to get the front and back ledge transforms from it using its own internal function. So basically, like I showed y'all, so if we click into it, you're going to see it has its own functions that were made for it, and it's going to get the back ledge at the end of it and the location, and it's going to get the front ledge and location from it. So that's pretty much what's going on there. And then, like I said with this, guys, basically we're just drawing debug locations here based off the function, the internal function from the previous section. And there we go, guys. That's pretty much it. So we are now officially done with the second part. The only thing we do need to do is, let me move this around. Well, actually, basically what I did in this is, let's go ahead and connect it to our second pin. And what I'm going to do is set that up. Let me move this up so that way it's straightened out. And there we go. And that is essentially do it, guys. Oop, let me actually grab these. Boom, just like that. So like I said, just to kind of repeat, so basically in the first video, we set a lot of our references, and then in this video, we essentially looked at how to do capsule tracing on a very basic level, or at least as basic as I can make it, by using the green functions up here as an example to show you what is going on. So, you know, with us doing the capsule trace, if we hit something and it's our traversal level block, we're gonna set the check results to say like, hey, we did hit it. If we didn't, we're just gonna fail it and return. And then if we did hit it, we're gonna get the transforms from it to say like, hey, we have a front ledge, we have a back ledge. What's the location of the front ledge? What's the location of the back ledge? And then after that, we have a bunch of debugs from the check to essentially say like, hey, like here's where the ledge is at, here's its center, you know, draw a debug sphere here. And because we have that set, the set for our result out, so since we are getting it here and setting it through here, and all of this stuff, basically when we do the other videos, we'll be able to more or less call like those changes or like the transforms that we got from here. So once you have that, guys, oop, actually this is perfect. I was wondering, I knew something. Oh, I know what was messed up, guys. My apologies. So good thing I didn't end the video here and we didn't compile and save yet. So from here, all we have to do is we need to go to our cast block traversable and we need to put that into the target. So that's pretty much what we were missing. I wasn't not paying attention to that part, guys. My bad. That's another thing. So let's go ahead and compile and save, and boom, there we go. So I apologize for that, guys. I know there was a lot of mistakes in this video because I kind of wanted to just fly through it a little bit, but also too, I wanted to explain it as best as I can. So, but if you're still confused, definitely leave a comment about it. I will do my best to do some research about it to be able to provide y'all better answers. But if you think this was satisfactory, then you know, I'm glad it's a plus on my book. So hopefully that was educational, guys, for that. In the next video, we're going to be doing a bunch of other stuff as well. I knew these videos are going to take a long time, so I have a feeling that the third section I'm going to have to break up, because as you can see, we go through a step one where we do some stuff and then talk about it. Then we have a part 2 that does a lot more setup, and then we have a part 3 to this, and then a 4th part. So there's just a lot of stuff that goes into this behemoth. Like this next section is going to be massive. So it's either going to be like an hour plus long video, or I'll try to break it up into sections. But more or less, like what I'll probably do is turn it into a long video and then put the corresponding sections on it, so that way you know where to reference back to in case you do pause throughout the video. So I'll definitely see how to do that, so I can make sure that that's, you know, more digestible for y'all in a sense. So other than that, guys, like I said, hopefully this was educational. Hopefully you were able to understand my words, whatnot, or my explanations of how to do this second part, or what the second part is actually doing. So if you like that, guys, and you so far liking the series, go ahead and hopefully join me in the next video once I have it put up, you know, and I, you know, really hope to see y'all then. I think this has been really fun. So other than that, guys, y'all take care, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.